Hello. It is surprising that the ancient Egyptian civilization still contains many wonders, the secrets of which we have not yet been able to reveal, despite the technological progress that we have reached. This work is an attempt to review and shed light on one of the hidden wonders of ancient Egypt, and a review of some theories to decipher its codes and reveal its secrets. In this video, I'm not trying to adopt a specific theory and do not have an answer to the secret, but I will leave all options open for discussion with everyone. Therefore, please share this video and write your opinion at the comments below. I also want to thank my friend Ahmed Adli for helping me create this content. There are two notes. First, before filming this video, I had two choices, either to speak spontaneously with some linguistic errors, of course, because English is not my native language, or to prepare a script and read from it, and based on the advice of my close friends who are native English speakers, to speak spontaneously as it will be more real. Second, sometimes you will see minor problems with photography due to the inability to use a professional camera at the present time, and I hope that does not bother you too much.
Hello everyone, we're here in Saqqara, Egypt, next to the oldest stone construction in the world, the Step Pyramid of King Zoser. But this is not where we're going to visit today. We're going to move a little bit northwest to visit one of the wonders of the ancient wonders of the world, the Serapeum of Saqqara. Can you imagine yourself trying to grab a stone block weighing 2 tons with a primitive way? How can you do that? And what kind of primitive tools you may need to help you out to do that task? And how many workmen you may need to help you out to pull or to grab that stone block? Let's take a look at this and be back. A French team led by an Egyptologist called Pierre Tallet from the Sorbonne University and his engineer friend called Frank Burgos. They tried to do an experiment pulling a stone block weighing between 2 to 3 tons. So they can repeat the same process made by the ancient Egyptians trying to grab or pulling the stones. So they found at one of the ancient Egyptian quarries called Wadi al-Garf, lots of pieces of wood. So they kind of guessed like the ancient Egyptians used these wooden pieces to move or to cut or to grab the stone blocks. So they are going to do the same experiment using the same method like the ancient Egyptians. It seems like this method didn't work out, although they have been using 33 workmen to help them. But they couldn't move the block more than 46 meters, which is like 150 feet, in the whole day. And their target was to move it for few hundreds of meters, more than 1,000 feet in one day. An immediate decision has been taken to make a wooden slider to make a little bit faster to move that stone. And they managed to move the stone for more than 275 meters, which is like 900 feet at the end of the day. Now let's imagine that you're trying to pull a stone block weighing 70 tons. Yeah, you heard me right, 70 tons. And it has a cover of 30 tons on top of it. So the total is like 100 tons. And you're gonna pull it or push it inside a tunnel with a length of 350 meters, which is like 1,100 feet. And put it inside a narrow room that is below the ground level of 1.5 meters, which is like 5 feet. So let me ask you the same questions. What kind of tools? What kind of instruments? How many workmen you may need to help you out to pull that stone and to push it inside a tunnel and to place it inside that room which is below the ground level? My friends, I am really very much surprised. How come the whole world is not paying so much attention to the Serapeum of Saqqara as much as they are so much interested at the Giza pyramids? With all that mystery that we found in that place, that push 1,000 question comes to our mind that we don't find any answers yet. My friends, let's go together, try to discover the Serapeum of Saqqara. Now, let me tell you the story from the very beginning. 1850, the French government, they sent to Egypt an archaeologist called Auguste Mariette to look for some Coptic Egyptian manuscripts. The Coptic language was the last stage of the development of the ancient Egyptian language used by the Egyptians since 5,000 years ago. So when Auguste Mariette came to Egypt, and while he was looking for these Coptic manuscripts, he got so much impressed and interested in some of the ancient writings written by a Greek historian called Strabo. That Greek historian was in Egypt at the 1st century AD. That means 1,800 years before Auguste Mariette was in Egypt. And he wrote about a temple under the ground, northwest of the step pyramid of King Zoser at Saqqara. And that temple was surrounded with a Sphinx Avenue. And it seems like Auguste Mariette so much liked the story, to the point that he already forgot about the Coptic manuscripts that he originally came to look for. So he decided to go to that spot and he started the excavation looking for the Serapeum. And in fact, he found a little part of a Sphinx statue that pops out of the sand dunes in the middle of the desert. So he started to remove the sands around that Sphinx statue. Then he found another one, and when he did the same thing, he found another one, and they have discovered several of those Sphinx statues, and they are all now in the Louvre Museum in France. And when Auguste Mariette found all these Sphinx statues, he was pretty sure that Strabo was right, and he's very close to discover the Serapeum. So he proceeded the excavation, and he found an area that is surrounded with so many blocks of stones and rocks. So he used the dynamite to blow them out. And yes, after 1 year of excavation, 1851, Auguste Mariette discovered the Serapeum of Saqqara. The Serapeum of Saqqara is consisting of so many tunnels and corridors under the ground, and it has so many side chambers containing 24 massive stone boxes. All the history books call them sarcophagi. They are all made of massive stone blocks. Each one of them weighed between 70 to 100 tons. So Auguste Mariette mentioned in his book that all these boxes were made to host the holy sacred body of the sacred bull Abyss for the ancient Egyptians. But the very strange thing is that we've never found any mummified bull for Abyss inside any of these boxes. So what was the main purpose making these boxes? And how the ancient Egyptians managed to carve them? And how they managed to pull or to move and push them inside these very narrow tunnels? So what is the Serapeum? All the history books were talking that the Serapeum was mainly made by the ancient Egyptians to bury a sacred bull called Abyss, which is a sacred bull for the ancient Egyptians. And it has some specific features, makes it special than any other bull. Let me give you an example. For example, it's the only calf for the mother, the only baby for the mother. And once it's being born, a thunder and light happen in the sky. And it's a black color with some white dots at the forehead and some other features like this. So the Serapeum is consisting of two major holes, the bigger hole and the smaller hole, or the longer and the shorter. Auguste Mariette discovered in the bigger hole 24 massive sarcophagi. 23 of them are open cover and only one has the cover on. So he assumed that these boxes were stolen by the grave robbers, and he really wished to find the 24th sarcophagi intact. So he tried together with the workmen to open it, but they could not. We're talking about a cover that weighed 30 tons. Unfortunately, August Mariette used the dynamite to blow up that cover. Of course, this is a stupid act, and he did apologize to the Egyptian government for this. But the strange thing is that he found that sarcophagi empty as well. August Mariette also did the excavation in the smaller hole, and he found a wooden sarcophagi, a mummy for human being, and all the funeral contents of the sarcophagus were intact as well. He also found a golden mask and several amulets made of gold and stone, which all belongs to the Prince Khaemwas, the son of King Ramses II. And they all now shown in the Louvre Museum in France. He also found several statues for the sacred Abbas bull and the canopic jars where the ancient Egyptians keep next to the dead, and a mummy for the Abbas bull. They are all now showing in the Agriculture Museum in Cairo. He also found several funeral tablets made from wood and stone. They are all also moved to the Louvre Museum in France. But at the bigger hole and all the corridors and tunnels, there is nothing belonging to the sacred Abbas bull. So is it really true that all these sarcophagi has been stolen by the grave robbers? Let's think about that. Why did they steal only the bigger hole and they left the shorter hole, while we found all the golden artifacts and the amulets there? Why did they open 23 sarcophagi and they left the 24th closed? I think for those who can open 23 sarcophagi, they can easily open the 24th one. And in fact, how did they open it? It weighed 30 tons. The bigger hole is about a very long straight tunnel that was carved at the bedrock of Saqqara. And on each side, there are chambers that are hosting the massive boxes. That tunnel is a very big mystery. How did the ancient Egyptians manage to carve a tunnel that straight, with no curvings, and with that round shape on the top? Carved at the bedrock of Saqqara, which is made of solid limestone. By the way, we're talking about a tunnel with a length of 350 meters, which is approximately 1,100 feet. With these tools that they show at the museums and all the history books are mentioning, I think it would be impossible to carve or to dig a tunnel like that. And also, in order to carve a tunnel like this, you need to solve 4 major problems. First, you need light. Because when you enter the Serapeum, after a few meters, if I ask the guard to switch off the lights, you wouldn't be able to see your hands. And let me do a little experiments now. I'm gonna ask the guard to switch off the light and let's see what we can see there. Second, you need a solution for a precise measurement. Otherwise, the tunnel wouldn't be that straight. Third, a very hard tools for digging, because you're carving in the very hard bedrock of Saqqara, made of a very hard limestone. Fourth, and this is the most important problem, you need to find a solution how to get rid of the carbon dioxide. The biggest problem indeed is the CO2. Because when the workman works, he exhales the CO2, and that CO2 accumulates at the bottom, which is about 15 centimeters per hour. After a few hours, it will be a certain death if the workman couldn't get out immediately. And if there is no other way to get rid of that CO2, it could remain at the place for several weeks. And now I'm going to show you a little experiment to see how the CO2 accumulates at the bottom of any surface.
Here, I will demonstrate how the CO2 flows in the gallery. It stays at the bottom. So, I take a gas that has the same density as CO2. It has the property of being colored, allowing it to be seen, but it's a gas, so we see through it. And so now we move away a little bit, and I'm going to pour the CO2 here in this jar, and we'll see what happens. And we see that the gas that represents CO2 remains at the bottom of this crystallizer. And that also shows that O2, oxygen, will also fall by gravity to the bottom of the tunnel.
Nowadays, the only way to carve a straight tunnel like that with round shape on the top is using a machine called tunnel boring machine. So how did the ancient Egyptians carve a tunnel like that? Take a look at this. This is the only entrance of the Serapeum. And you can see the width. It's approximately 3.2 meters, which is approximately like 10 feet. And if we take a look at these boxes, you can see that the box is pretty wide. It's almost occupying most of the space. So you have no space for any workmen on the sides. So they either have to be either pulling the block or pushing it. That's the only way to get the blocks through these tunnels. The weight of every box is approximately 70 tons. If we assume that every strong workman can pull 120 kilograms, which is almost like 250 pounds. So we need approximately 583 workmen to pull that box. Only the body of the box, not the cover. The other problem is that the width of the tunnel is approximately 3.2 meters. And again, we're going to talk about the oxygen and the light. How can you provide them light? And how they can breathe in that very narrow tunnel? And here we have a question. Why did they make these boxes pretty massive, while the tunnels are very narrow? And why they didn't try to make it a little wider? The thing which is very confusing is that when they put these boxes inside the rooms, they put them below the ground level, approximately 1.5 meters, which is like 5 feet. So the question, how did they put the box down there? Like a bunch of workmen, they went down first and then they started getting the box and put it inside the room? Also, take a look at the room. A room like this, with that size, how many workmen can fit in there? The weight of that box is the same weight of the blocks of stones at the burial chamber of the Great Pyramid of King Khufu. In the case of the pyramid, it's very easy for us to keep inventing many theories, like using ropes, ramps, a lot of different theories. But all these theories would never work here at the Serapeum. And the one who can move and place a box with that size in a small, narrow room like this, I think it would have been easy for him to put the blocks at the burial chamber of King Khufu. And I have a question for those who believe in the theories of ropes and very primitive tools. Please take a look at that box and tell me, how would you be able to pull and to place that sarcophagi or that box into this place? So the engineering precision is one of the most impressive things that you can see at the Serapeum. And it gives so many proofs that it's impossible that the ancient Egyptians did all this using the very primitive tools that they show at the museums. And maybe they have been using very advanced technology or very advanced machineries that we don't know or we've never heard about it. And that made many scientists and engineers very much confused. And now I'm going to give you several examples that shows the outstanding engineering precision used by the ancient Egyptians building or carving the boxes of the Serapeum, which keeps everyone asking how they reached this level of engineering precision and what's the purpose of it and how they reached that level. Now let me start first with Christopher Dunn, who's a British engineer. He had a wide experience of cutting metal and manufacturing engines. Christopher Dunn published a book in 2010 called Lost Technology in Ancient Egypt. And he was trying to prove that the ancient Egyptians used a very advanced technology to cut the stones and building all these antiquities. The idea of the lost technology that Christopher Dunn went through, it came up because of so many evidence and proofs he have seen, and made him pretty sure that the ancient Egyptians used a very advanced machineries or technology helped them to build and make these antiquities. And his theory was mainly based on an idea of engineering term called the engineering precision. For example, the right angle used by the students at school, it's not exactly right angle, not exactly 90 degree. It could be 90.001 or 90.002, or it could be minus 001 or minus 002. On the other hand, that metal right angle that they use at the factories, for example, to manufacture engines or manufacture machines, it's impossible to have any kind of mistakes, or it's impossible to have any kind of minus or plus degrees. Let's imagine if it's not really 100% accurate, and then they're going to use it to manufacture an engine or something very important. And that explains why this one is even 50 times more expensive than the one that they use at school. Now let's get back to the Serapeum boxes or sarcophagi. It was carved and polished with a high end of engineering precision, and it's made of one block not several blocks, and they build them together. So Christopher Dunn, he put that right angle at one of the sides and one of these boxes, and he turned on his flashlight from the other side. And he started observing if the light is going to go through the right angle or not. What happened is that he's seen that there is no light going through the right angle, which means that the box was highly precisely polished and very accurate right angle inside. The second example, it's an experiment made by one of my best friends, the Egyptian engineer Ahmed Adli. He's done so many experiments, he has lots of points of view. I'll try to explain and discuss them together with you. He's done a very similar experiments to the one done by Christopher Dunn, but using much precise tools with accurate figures. So he used a digital meter and a digital right angle. And he started taking the measurements inside these boxes. So to be honest with you, he picked up any of these boxes randomly, and he started doing his experiment on one of these boxes. Now let's take a look at the results and the experiments he have done. And we're going to use a 3D model for one of these boxes, try to show you and summarize the results on it. So what exactly he have done, he put the meter on the right side of the box, and he started taking the measurements of the box length, which showed 3.091 meter. Then he put the meter on the left side of the box and he tried to take the other side length, and it showed exactly the same, 3.091 meter. He repeated the same process, trying to measure the width of the box. So he put the meter on the right side of the box again, and he started taking the measurements of the width, and it showed 1.495 meter. Then he put the meter on the left side of the box, and he started taking the measurement of the box width from the left side, and it showed again 1.495 meter. And then after this, he started measuring the internal angle, and it shows 90.00 exactly. That means it was not 90.01 or even -1. It was 90.00 exactly. And this is a summary of the entire process. Please take a look at it. And another example is SEDA project. They're a group of researchers have done a lot of experiments on the pyramids and the Egyptian archaeological sites. They've done studies on 24 boxes, and they measured 4 boxes out of the 24 boxes randomly. And they got the exact same results as Ahmed Adli and Christopher Dunn. And one more experiments made by a Swiss engineer, his name was Grigori Shbori. He's taken the measurements and he got again the same exact results. High end of engineering precision. And now, by looking at the Serapeum boxes and these results, we've got so many questions in our minds that we don't have any answers for them. Did the ancient Egyptians use a very high advanced technology or very advanced machineries and tools to cut and carve these boxes? Do you really think we can get these results using these primitive tools? I don't really think we can get these results. Drawing like a line to the workman, asking him to start carving and not to get any right or left, without any mistakes of the right angle. Of course, by looking at all these tools and instruments that we see at the museums, I don't really think we can do just one box of the one that you can see at the Serapeum. But at the Open Air Museum of Mitrahina in Memphis, we found a box. It could have been carved in a primitive way using these primitive tools. Although it's not easy even to do it with these primitive tools, but you can easily tell the difference between the engineering precision of this box and the other ones at the Serapeum. And now, I want to go through the most famous and the most important experiments and theories that has been done trying to prove how the Serapeum boxes has been made. But before I start explaining these experiments or theories, I would like to explain first, for those who don't know the Mohs scale, to measure the hardness level of all the minerals on Earth. 1812, the German metal scientist Friedrich Mohs, he invented a scale with his name to measure the hardness level of all minerals on Earth. And his scale was mainly based on a very simple theory that you cannot carve an item or a mineral with a higher level of hardness using a tool with a lower level of hardness. The scale was measuring the hardness of all minerals, and it has different levels from 1 to 10. Of course, the lowest hardness is 1 and the highest hardness is 10. And by taking a look at his table, you can see way at the bottom, minerals like wax is the lowest, and of course the highest will be diamond. And the rest of the minerals are in the middle. Like copper is 3.5, bronze is 4, iron is 5, quartz and all different kind of granite is 7. That means if you would like to carve granite, you need to carve it using tools with higher level of hardness. That means diamond. And this is why all the tools and machineries that we use nowadays to cut granite, it all has diamond teeth. And we all know that diamond has been discovered in the 19th century, and all the official documents and researches proved that the ancient Egyptians, they used copper and bronze to cut granite, because even iron was not yet discovered. So, in 1995, a working team called NOVA, consisting of several engineers, experts in the Egyptian construction and antiquities, and of course, together with so many numbers of workmen. That team was led by the famous Egyptologist Mark Lehner. The team was trying to prove that the ancient Egyptians, they built the pyramids and the obelisks and the boxes and sarcophagi of the Serapeum using the primitive tools.
Tries chisels made from bronze. The results are disappointing.
And they have tried to do the same experiments to carve and to cut the granite. So let's see what they have found.
We're leaving a lot of metal and very little stone is flaking out.
Bronze and copper tools of the time are at first sight too soft.
At the Egyptian Museum of Antiquities, there is a sarcophagus which is incomplete, made of red granite, and they were trying to separate its cover from it. But it seems like it got broken for some reason. So when Dr. Mark Lehner saw this, he assumed that the ancient Egyptians used a copper saw.
All right, we have a big block of granite here. So how's this copper going to cut this granite?
We're going to use the saw in a reciprocating or backwards and forwards motion.
Dennis Stocks, an expert in ancient technology, suggests the Egyptians had a trick up their sleeves.
So we'll get started.
So you're going to chip a groove and then you're going to put the copper and slide it back and forth. But how, and that's going to cut the granite?
No, Mark.
Even with teeth, the copper alone is too soft.
Okay, well, what is actually going to do the cutting? It seems to me that copper is just going to blunt on granite. I can't believe it's going to cut the stone.
We're going to put sand inside the groove and we're going to put this saw on top of the sand and then let the sand do the cutting. All that needs to be done is to move the saw backwards and forwards in a nice steady motion.
You don't want to lift it up and get those grains in there?
No, they'll work themselves in as it goes.
Yellow?
Okay. Good. That's it. Now the stone weights at each end of the saw are putting the load onto the sand and causes the cutting. The crystal is forced to score a groove in the stone.
So the copper is only guiding the sand's doing the cutting.
Right.
Now Dennis, will we see any progress in our lifetime?
Yes, if you came back in an hour's time, you would see about a 4 millimeter cut down into the stone.
You're kidding, in an hour you'll be 4 millimeters down?
Well, I've been doing a lot of experiments and I can guarantee that this will cut through the stone at about 4 millimeters an hour.
So 4 millimeters per hour, that means 4 centimeters per day. So to cut 3 meters, we need 30 days. And that means to cut the outside part and to extract the box from the quarry, you need to work 8 months just to cut the outside block and to extract it out of the quarry. But if we believe that the ancient Egyptians used this method to extract the box from the quarry, then we have another problem. How they are going to be able to cut the inside part of the box and to polish it out to make it that precise? How they are going to be able to reach this level of engineering precision? How did they cut and polish the inside part of the boxes? Unfortunately, we don't have a real practical answer for these questions. It's all just theoretical answers. Or maybe sometimes they give you like halfway and then they let you to discover the rest on your own. The second experiment was done by Christopher Dunn, and he did correspond with 4 American companies specialized in cutting granite. And he sent them a full details about the measurements of the Serapeum boxes. The answers from the 4 companies that they don't have the tools and machineries to be able to cut similar boxes like those ones right now. And now I'm quoting one of these answers that has been published in his book, Lost Technology in Ancient Egypt. Dear Christopher, you've told us that one of these boxes is made of 1 block of granite and it weighs almost 100 tons. With today's prices, that piece is gonna cost you 115,000 US dollars. That is just for the raw material, without cutting or transporting or doing any kind of work to the block. The second problem will be transporting this block. We need to get permission from the DOP, and that is gonna cost you, of course, several thousands of dollars. You mentioned that the ancient Egyptians moved these boxes for a distance over 500 miles. That is impossible, especially if it happened thousands of years ago. And he continued that they do not have the needed tools to do this box right now. And the only way they suggest is to make 5 different blocks of granite and bolt them together. So, there is another theory showed up recently and has been presented by the famous researchers Fehmi Krasniqi. And he showed and explained his theory in the great movie The Great Pyramid 2019. And he presented an unbelievable answer and theory how the ancient Egyptians they cut and they formed the granite in such a way. And to summarize his idea is that the ancient Egyptians they used a gigantic solar lenses to concentrate the solar power, and they used it to melt and to reform and mold the granite blocks. So they can melt the granite blocks and they turn it into lava, and then they can pour it inside molds made of mud brick so they can do the statues and the boxes and even the obelisks.
The Egyptians poured this lava into clay molds. And here is the famous statue of the 3rd dynasty, Huni, the grandfather of Khufu, in the Aswan granite.
Of course, in the movie, they started showing the chemical components to do these solar lenses. And they have done one of these solar lenses, of course a small one, and they managed to concentrate and focus the sunlight.
Natron mixed with lime gives caustic soda. Caustic soda mixed with water and white sand heated to 1000 degrees Celsius produces sodium silicate, referred to as liquid glass or water glass. They mixed it with potassium silicate, obtained by the same process. They poured the liquid into a lens-shaped mold. 2 to 3 days later, they unmolded the transparent lens. A lens that focuses light at one point, a magnifying glass.
And then they assumed if the ancient Egyptians reached this knowledge, it could have been easy for them to make a gigantic solar lenses that could generate a huge solar power with the temperature of 2000 Celsius or 3600 Fahrenheit.
Why is there no evidence? Throughout its history, humanity has waged wars for energy. A forest, a field, a coast, a lake, its potential food, its energy. Throughout its existence, humanity has waged wars for energy. So you have to imagine that such a discovery had to remain secret. It was passed on discreetly from generation to generation. Today, solar is the most accessible and cheapest energy. It is free. The evidence that the granite was cast with solar lenses could possibly be found in the archives of the Vatican, Paris, London, and Cairo.
Honestly speaking, that was a genius idea. I really like the idea very much. But still, I have several questions in mind. First of all, why we could not do a practical experiments like this one? Especially nowadays, we can easily get huge solar lenses and we can find the granite everywhere. Second, I did some researches on YouTube and I actually found several people, they have done smaller, not like the one has been shown in the movie, smaller solar lenses, and they managed to focus the sunlight, and they generated a huge energy that could melt anything on Earth. And they actually managed to melt the granite and they turn it again into lava. But when they poured the granite once again, or the lava, the chemical formula of the granite has been changed and it turned to be obsidian.
How tight does this focus? Can we see it?
Just look, yes. By spraying some water.
Oh my God. So if my hand's here, it's okay, but if it went there, what would happen?
Not at the focus. Here it's okay, but...
And even a mirror this big, would it be powerful enough to kind of set light to something?
Yes.
Can I try it?
Go ahead.
Okay, show me the focus. I'm okay. Oh, my life. Can we do that again? That's astonishing. I've never seen anything set light to wood that quickly. How hot is it in there? What temperature does it get to?
At that focal point, we can reach a temperature higher than 3,500 degrees C, and there is currently no known materials that could resist this.
There is nothing on Earth that can withstand the temperature right in the middle there.
Nothing.
And I'm pointing at it.
Exactly.
Just 2 square meters of sunshine can melt steel pretty easily. I would love to try and weld some stuff with sunshine. It'd be really nice. If you had 3 people sunbathing, they would be collecting that amount of sunshine. And look what it does. Despite having traveled 93 million miles, the energy of the sun can even melt rock. Look at that. See, to me, that's far more amazing than melting steel. Like, I see steel melt every other day, but I've never seen anything like that.
Thirdly, if we believe in this theory, and in fact I'm so much impressed with it, I really liked it, but still I'm not very much convinced. And if we assume that this is the right theory, how would we be able to enter the sunlight into the tunnels of the Serapeum to start melting the granite and to cure the boxes in its place? And why did we find one of these boxes or sarcophagus in the middle of one of these tunnels? Why they left it right there in the middle? It seems like it was in its way to the room or the specialized place to be kept on. By the way, if you ask any of the guards there at the Serapeum about this box, he's going to mention to you that King Farouk, the previous king of Egypt, was trying to give it as a gift to one of the European countries. Then they found that transporting or moving this box out of its place is going to cost a lot of money and it's very much of a hassle. So they left it right there on the corridor. Well, in fact, this story is not true. And the proof is that August Mariette, in his book 1951, he mentioned that he found this box in the tunnel. That means he found the box 70 years before King Farouk was even born. Of course, I don't think this story is not true. Maybe King Farouk tried to move that box and he failed. And they left it on the same place. But the box was already in the tunnel, like what was mentioned by August Mariette himself, the one who discovered the Serapeum. Now we've got 24 massive stone boxes, and they don't have any mummies inside them. What was discovered is just a mummy, and internal organs, and couple of mummified bowls inside the smaller or the shorter hole. So were these boxes really made to host the mummified body of the sacred bull Abyss or not? And if it was so, what are the funeral inscriptions? What are the prayers and inscriptions on the boxes? Also, all the boxes do not have any inscriptions except for 4 of them. They have hieroglyphic inscriptions for kings from the late period, like King Ahmad II, Habasha, Kambiz, and the 4th one, it doesn't even have a name. And if you take a look at these inscriptions, you would see that it's made from a very weak inscriptions. It's almost, I can call it scratches. Even the straight lines are not that straight. So is it really true? They make a box that perfect And they cannot even carve a straight line better than that? And if you take a look at this box, for example, you would see that the king's cartouche is empty. Let me tell you something. The king's cartouche, which should host the king's name. So does it really make sense that the king ordered to make a box like that, and then he would forget the most important thing, which is writing his name on it? I think now we would say that the one who cut and carved this box, he's not the one who wrote on it. And the one who wrote on these boxes, he was trying to get it for himself. Why they brought all these massive blocks of granite all the way south from Aswan and Wadi al-Hammamat, which is approximately 1,000 kilometers or 700 miles south of Cairo, and the size of each one of these boxes is like 4 times bigger than the bull itself. Why that most perfect engineering precision from the inside? Would it make any difference if it was less precise than that? Why not all the boxes the same shape or carved from the same material? We can see they have been carved from different materials like red granite, black granite, diorite, cyanite. Why the ancient Egyptians didn't go just to one quarry, let's say red granite, and they cut all the boxes from one place? Why do we go to different places? When we take a look at the boxes and we observe, we're gonna easily notice that it has been carved first from the inside, then they started finishing the outside. And we have 2 evidence for this. The box that has been opened by Auguste Mariette, and he broke it, it was carved and polished from the inside. But it's pretty obvious that it was not finished or done from the outside. The other box at the Egyptian Museum of Antiquities, it was very precise and very well finished from the inside. But it's clear that it was not finished from the outside as well. Why all the boxes has been made just from one stone block and not 5 different sides and bolt them together? Were these boxes cut and designed this way so it can consume a huge pressure from the inside and they were afraid it's gonna fall apart? So what exactly they were planning to keep inside? Actually, I don't know, but I'm pretty much sure these boxes were not made to host the holy body of the sacred bull Abyss. It seems like it's pretty clear that we do not understand the real reason why these boxes has been made. And this is why we call them sarcophagi. But we need to think a little bit more what these boxes could have been made for. Let me give you a little example. If we bring someone from the medieval ages and we show him nowadays fridge, and we're gonna ask him, what do you think about this? He's gonna say, this could be a box. The same thing what happened for us is that when we saw these boxes, and we know the ancient Egyptians, they used to bury the bodies or mummies inside sarcophagi. This is why we call them sarcophagi of the Serapeum. Christopher Dunn and other researchers and scientists, and my dear friend Ahmed Adli, the engineer, they all believe that the Serapeum was made in a very ancient period of time, even before the dynastic Egyptian period. And the ancient Egyptians at that ancient period of time, they used a very advanced and modern technology to build and make these boxes together with the pyramids. And due to a cataclysm or a big disaster that happened, all this ancient civilization disappeared. And then the dynastic Egyptians came later on and they found them and they put their names on these constructions. And they're proof that the Serapeum, it has 28 rooms and we found only 24 boxes, which means that the Serapeum was waiting for more other boxes to be coming. And there are so many box covers are not in their places. There are 7 boxes out of the 24. Their body is not polished from the outside or the inside, unlike the rest of the other boxes, which means that they were waiting to be polished later on. In other ways, those we call them incomplete boxes. Here it comes again, the idea of the sudden stop. It's impossible. After when I cut one box few hundred miles away, and then I carve it, and then I bring it right here, and I have only 15 meters left or 45 feet left, and I'm gonna put it in its place, and then I stop. Did they reach the last 1% of work, and then they stopped? It's sure that something happened, forced them to stop. It's pretty normal when they stop working for some reason, They're gonna come back and continue the work some other time. But it's pretty obvious that the work team, they stopped working for some reason, and they said, we're gonna come back tomorrow and continue working. But that tomorrow has never come. So they assume, like I mentioned to you, that the owners of the ancient civilization, they suddenly disappeared with their knowledge and technology. And that sudden stop, it doesn't have any other explanation except it happened because of a cataclysm. And then of course the dynastic Egyptians and other generations came later on, and they have reused these monuments and antiquities once again. But my point of view on this theory, and I mean the lost civilization theory, is that it did not also give an answers to any of the questions or reveal any of the mystery about the ancient Egyptian secrets and civilization. I mean, it gives answers without any proofs or any real evidence. It's like any other theory, like the aliens theory or the ghost theory or the lost continents of Atlantis theory. I mean, you take the easy way, is that you believe that anything is existing is belonging to something or to somewhere or to some creatures that are not existing. And if we believe that this is the right theory, so it doesn't really make sense that they never left any names or any inscriptions belonging to them. They never even left just one device or any machine or tools they have used before. Why they never mentioned or talked about it? There are so many points we need to cover. Please stay tuned. Now Ali's Group, I hope you enjoyed this video. And please wait, there are so many more that are coming. But in order to do that, I need your help and support. If you really like it, please press the like button and please share it with your friends. And those who did not subscribe to my channel, please subscribe now. Thank you very much.